Hi, it's Graham from Compiler again with the second video in the series where we'll be looking at site layout and content and how you can engage your visitors and keep them coming back for more. So let's get started by looking at why site layout is important. Almost anybody can put up a website these days, but you don't want something that looks like your dog put it together. Having a well-planned site layout sends a clear message. And that message is that you care about your visitors and want them to have the best experience possible while visiting your site. With all of the choices available to people, you want to give them a good reason to stay on your website, and one of the best ones is help them find what they want. Now, if you've been using the internet for a while, you must have come across websites that seem intent in hiding the information that you're looking for. The reason that they do this is not certain, but it is the quickest way to make your visitors go somewhere else for their answers. Hopefully, you will remember from the first video how important it is to build trust. If your visitor sees a well-organized website which provides the information they're looking for easily, then you will be building trust with them straight away. This is very important because when a visitor trusts you, they are more likely to make a purchase decision. If you have a shambles of a site where it's really difficult for the visitor to find the information that they need to move on to the next step, then it's very unlikely that they will want to make a purchase from you or even call you about your products or services. On the other hand, a well-organized site will go a long way to prove that you stand by your business. Every day there are reports of people being scammed by website owners. These days you can get websites out of a box ready to go, but these tend to be very basic in their layout. Visitors will appreciate landing on a quality website that has informative content. Good layout of your site is also good for search engines. Google and the other search engines have ways to determine what kind of site layout that you have, and those sites that have a good layout are often rewarded with higher rankings in the search results. Now that you know why site layout is so important, let's have a look at some essential ingredients. These are some essential elements that all good sites require, and this always starts with good navigation. If you have a site with more than one page on it, then having a good navigational layout is essential. It should be very clear that what the main categories of your site are about, and how visitors can easily access them. A menu system of links to the pages of your site is a good idea, and you can also help your visitor by providing links to related information. Let's assume that you have a website about dog training. You provide a very informative homepage which talks about how people can train their dogs quickly and easily. Then you have links to further information about dog training, such as house training your dog to sit, training your dog to fetch a stick, and so on. This is related information, and if your visitor is truly interested in the subject, then they want to go to these pages and read more. Now, when it comes to pages that are absolutely essential to have on your site, then this always starts with About Us. I spoke about the importance of this in the first video. This page is a must, as it's your personal message to your visitors. A large number of visitors will want to check out this page, and if you don't have one, then it's very likely they will find a competitor that does. Your About Us page needs to be passionate and tell visitors what you're about and how you will take care of them. You can get ideas for your About Us page by looking at other people's About Us pages. Once they have read about you, the next important page is Contact Us. Providing the ability for people to contact you is vital. This can be via telephone, email, or personal visit. Always supply as much detail as possible on this page. Now you can have a form where people enter in their details and the subject of their inquiry. This is better than publishing your email address, as this can lead to you receiving spam emails. If it's appropriate for people to visit you, then you can have a map on the page showing your location and the best way to get there by road or rail, etc. If you have a contact form, then this will send contact messages to a specified email address, so make sure that this is checked regularly so that you can respond quickly. Another important page to include is privacy. Visitors are rightly concerned about their privacy online these days. They want to be sure that if they supply their email address, that this will not be distributed to all and sundry, and they will not be bombarded with spam emails. Make sure that you have a clear privacy statement and that it states clearly that you will not do this. There are many examples of good privacy pages that you can learn from on the internet, or you can have a solicitor create one for you. Which leads me on to other legal pages. Now, this is not a mandatory requirement, but it will certainly make your site look more professional if you have a terms and conditions page and/or a disclaimer page. There are other legal pages which might apply to your business, and I'm not going to cover this here. You should know what you need. If you're in doubt, then it's a good idea to obtain legal advice on this. These additional legal pages will be noticed by search engines as well. Now that we have covered the layout essentials, let's have a look at layout don'ts. There are some very creative websites out there, but often people go over the top with this. This can often lead to pages that are very slow to load and confusing to visitors. We live in an instant gratification world, and if your site takes too long to load, then people will go elsewhere. Nobody is patient when they're browsing the internet. The first of these don'ts is flash animations. This was a big thing in the late 90s and early 2000s to have a fancy flash animation created for your site. The problem is with these animations that they can take a while to load and the search engines cannot understand them, so they will have no idea what your site is about. For most websites, flash animations are simply not necessary. If you need to use them to show off your design skills, then tell the visitor that there's one on your site and let them choose whether to play it or not. The next mistake that a lot of people make is to use too many images. It is true to say that internet connection speeds have increased over the last few years, and now many people have broadband connections, but not everybody does. If you put too many images on a page, then even with a broadband connection, it will take time to render them, and time is very much against you on the internet. Web visitors have the attention span of a gnat, and they don't like waiting. If you want to show off your pictures, then create gallery pages for this. People will expect to wait a few seconds for these pages to load. It is always good to have some images on a page, so be careful not to have too much text. If you have a web page that just has thousands of words of text that is not in some way broken up, this will put your visitors off for sure. It is understood that in some situations it is necessary to have a lot of text, especially if you're explaining something complex. So use some images to break this up a bit. Also, you can break large amounts of text up into separate pages, so that if people want to read more, then they can. Just don't blind them with text. At the opposite end of this spectrum is too little text. I've seen many small business websites that only have 3 or 4 lines of text explaining what they can do on their homepage. Would you buy from them? Well, I wouldn't. If they can't be bothered to write a few words about who they are and what they can do for me, then there's no way I want them anywhere near my home, thank you very much. Now, you might think I'm being a bit over the top here, but there are many other people who think this way as well. Your website is your shop window, so make an effort with it. Whatever happens, avoid no clear navigation. Now, cases of this are becoming quite rare, but I still occasionally come across sites that have a very poor navigation structure. I'm not going to say any more other than don't do this. Make sure that access to your site is simple and that people can get back to the home page easily. The last thing in the category is not to have too many ads. It's very easy and tempting to try and monetize your site with a lot of ads for related products on your pages. Most people want to go elsewhere if they see that your site is full of ads. Visitors are looking for information and a solution to their problem. A few ads are okay, but don't overdo it. Now we are going to look at what is good content. I get asked this all of the time. For me, good content has to include the following. Firstly, it's engaging. Well, what does this mean? Well, it has to be of interest to the reader, so they want to read it from top to bottom. When you are writing content, you need to think about how what you are writing will benefit them. Don't make it all about you and your company. Focus on them as much as you can. And then we go on to, does it answer their questions? We talked about this a lot in the first video because it's so important. Remember that people use the internet to find answers and solutions quickly. So if you're experts in fixing plumbing leaks, then tell them that. If you're the best electrician in the district, then tell them that, but don't forget to prove it. If you offer the most delicious pizza, then tell them how the different flavors will burst on their tongue. Just think about what questions you would ask if you were them, and then state them and answer them. If you do that, they will believe you are an expert. Now, you probably are an expert in your profession, but if you're not, then they will believe that you are because you gave them that impression. This is very important, as you want your customers to keep coming back and to tell all of their friends and relatives about you. When you achieve this expert status, then you will find that your visitors will want more from you. This is just human nature. If you have good friends, then you want to spend more time with them, don't you? Well, if you give people what they want on the internet, then they will want you to give them more. Believe me, there is a lot of crap on the internet, so to find content that is engaging and useful can be pretty rare. When you present your content, be sure to employ different media usage. It's always a good idea to use a mixture of text, images, and video on your pages. This will keep visitors on your pages and your site longer, which is very good for lowering your bounce rate. Now, bounce rate is a term used by Google and the other search engines for how long a visitor stays on your site. If they don't stay long, then this is not good, and the search engines will penalize these kinds of sites, so you don't want that to happen to you. Now let's have a look at content essentials. These are the most important things from a content point of view to have on your site. Text of 500 words plus. Now, I'm not going to dwell on this, but make sure that you aim for at least 500 words of text on your pages. It sounds like a lot, but it really isn't. If you haven't got 500 words to say about your business, then you're in trouble. Then make sure you have at least one video. Again, I've mentioned this often enough. Nobody is expecting Hollywood here. A slide presentation with images will suffice. I actually like to hear the voice of the business owner rather than background music, but both can be effective. Now, don't forget to use images for message reinforcement. Use related images wherever you can to get your point across. Now, this is just common sense. If you're a builder, ask your customers if you can take pictures of the finished work. Better still, do before and after pictures. The next item is related information. This is very powerful. I described this before, but what you are doing here is giving the visitor the opportunity to read more related information about the subject of your website. Simple but effective. Now we come on to an opt-in form. We are going to cover this in great detail in the next video. This is just a box on your site where visitors can leave their name and email address in exchange for something of value. You can then contact them afterwards via email. And finally in this section, social network sharing. Make sure you provide buttons that people can click to share your content on Facebook, Twitter, and Google+. If you don't know how to do this, then find somebody that does. Sharing is all the rage these days. Now we're going to discuss keeping it fresh. When you build a website, it's not just a matter of putting up a few pages and leaving it at that. It should be something that is continuously growing. You can do this by starting a blog. A blog or a weblog is like a diary. A blog is very easy to set up, and you can make some regular posts to it on, say, a monthly or weekly basis even. I'll be showing you how to set up a WordPress blog very easily in a future video. The whole point of doing this is to give them value. I said before that if they consider you an expert, then they will want more. This is giving value to your visitors. There are several ways that you can do this, such as telling them the latest news. Tell them about recent changes in your industry that affect them. Tell them how you save somebody a lot of money by fixing a problem for them. Tell them how a client made a lot of money by using your services. I'm sure you get the idea. You can also use customer testimonials. If you're not asking your customers for testimonials and referrals, then you must do it. Tell your visitors about every testimonial you receive. Also, you can tell visitors about new products and services. If you are planning new products or services, then tell your visitors about them. Remember to focus on the benefits for them. And finally, you could offer a how-to series. This series of videos is a how-to series. You could teach people the fundamentals of what you do without giving too much away. This works very well and could lead to more business for you. Well, that brings us to the end of this video. In the next video, I will be talking about how to set up and use autoresponders. So, see you then.